In today's video, we're taking a look inside the DD Reef Pro 900 now that it's 12 months old. Welcome to the latest video, and this is actually a review of how the tank is set up. So in the last video I did a review of the tank and how I found it 12 months later. This is really what I've done to the tank in terms of inhabitants, livestock, corals, and the setup of the sump. So the flow's off at the moment. There's actually more corals in here than I thought. So we'll give a top-down view in a minute. But there's some candy cane now. Mostly LPS in here. Big pieces of chalice. Move around here. There's a side view of the tank. Plenty of room for SPS up top, and this tank was going to be a SPS, but I just had problems with the SPS, so it's gone more LPS at the moment with a few zoas up top there. I will sort it out and make it more SPS dominant once I've got the doses sorted out and I've got some more testers in there. Fish wise, kept it quite simple. I've got a pair of Picasso clowns which I absolutely adore. That was in the Red Sea Reef 170. I tried breeding them, got to about 4 days, or the fry, but just couldn't keep them alive. But they're beautiful. I've got one pink longfin Anthea. You'll have seen the first video I had 5. There just wasn't enough, and maybe the tank was too small. This is the dominant one that just killed the others off. So really gutted about that because they're absolutely superb, but I just wouldn't put those Antheas in this size tank, or I would have got maybe more, 10 or 15. But the problem is it was a new tank, so it would have caused real problems with the parameters. And then here I've got 2 flasher wrasse. I've got one that's a bit more plain, being photobombed there by the clowns. So there's the male there of the flasher wrasse, and then the female is around somewhere. And I'm sure we'll get a glimpse of that. There we go, just picking on the rocks at the back. So what I do, I feed them copepods once a day, and then they have frozen in the evening. Probably will add a couple more fish, but at the moment the bioload's okay. I don't really need to do water changes, and it works out quite well. So let's take a look from the top, which I think is always better. Now, when I set this tank up and then I had problems with the SPS, I just really put the rest of the corals in without thinking about them, just to see how they would get on. So I hate frag racks in a tank, but I transferred all these zoas over, and within the first month or so they were rubbish. But I think over probably a period of 3 months they've started to grow out, the polyps are getting full extensions, and I'm really happy with how the colours are popping. Some really nice ones in. A couple of them not open today, not too sure why, but it's a really good sign that they look like they was beginning to die off, and then they've really come back and have started to thrive. So that's really positive. In terms of SPS, I did lose the sticks that I put in here when I first set the tank up, and not many have survived. So that has come back. That's a blue digi. Not too sure if the colour really comes out. This one here, really pleased with on the edge there. I think that's a Nana. Now that was brown, and the polyps are green, and it's really beginning to pop, so I'm really good with that. And now this is a pink Pacillipora, and it is started to colour up. That should go a lot pinker than that, although I'm not too sure because the frag rack's in the way, so that might affect it, but we will see. That's it in terms of sticks. Now moving on to some Montes. I've got 2 pieces of Setosa there, another small piece there, but that's just grown out as a frag for Ross at Bearded Reef. Now disappointing thing is you've got an Avatar chalice there, which is just there. Now that looks a bit crappy. Now what happened was that beauty there stung that, and it just hasn't recovered. Now I know Avatar are good in here because you've got a really nice piece there, and there's a piece there. An Avatar chalices are really nice, and then there's another piece right over the back. They do pretty good in high and low flow, so I may have to cut that one up because it's just not recovering. Got an undata there, and in one of the first videos I showed that was virtually dead. It's come back and it's really nice. So really pleased with how that one has developed. Now, I showed in the last video on the Red Sea Reef 450, the hammer coral was looking pretty sick, and it continues to deteriorate because the clams have started to host in it. So I've cut it up. So I've got 5 frags, I think it is, and all 5 frags are doing really well. So I'm really pleased with how they've taken to this tank and starting to grow out. So that's really good. And then over here you've got one of my favourite corals, which is a bubble coral, and again they're thriving in this tank, and LPS have done really well. An acan there, and a green softy in the middle, which I can't remember the name of. And then there's a Christmas tree, Favia. Got that big ball in the other tank, and I've just fragged that a little bit. So the tank's a little bit messy. Got another frag rack over the back there, and that's got Tubbs Blue Zoas. They grow really quickly. So over the next couple of months I'm going to sort this tank out a bit more. A couple of the Zoas are going to transfer into the 170, maybe sell a couple on to other reefers. But overall I'm really pleased with how it's developed in the last 2 to 3 months, and things are colouring up. The only problem I've got is got a little bit of bubble algae, well, a bit more than a little bit, that I need to sort out. So 2 bits there, a little piece there, and it's scattered around. So I might have to get an emerald crab or use vibrant on that, but we will see. Superman mushrooms there, they were in the sump area of this tank. Moved them up there to get them to colour up, so that's looking quite nice. And then there's another couple of frags down there, again something on the sand bed that I just really need to move on. There's another chalice in the middle there, which is the blue with pink eyes. Doesn't really show up properly on the tank, but overall I'm pleased with the rockscape, or the aquascape. I'm pleased with how the tank is developing, and some really big corals growing, and I just need to get some sticks onto these areas here and to those areas there and try them again. So if we now move down to the sump and look at the setup we've got here, so I'm really pleased with how the sump's turned out. It's a really good build. So you've got the auto top off container there, and that's got a Tunzi auto top off, and I would recommend that. And you see over the back it's got a double sensor, it's got a float switch and a sensor, so one fails the other one will kick in, so that gives you good redundancy there. In the first chamber, it's fairly big, so water comes down there, goes into the Clavacy. Really love the Clavacy. In fact, it works too well, but the sump is designed for that by DD, so that's really good. So it comes, so you haven't got to mess around, you haven't got to take out any baffles or anything like that. It just slots straight in. It's an automatic one, so as the water comes down, goes into the section there, the water rises, you have a float switch in there, and as that float switch moves up, then the roll moves round. A skimmer, which is a Deltec 400i, I think is pretty good. I've got a light bioload, so I probably don't empty the cup very often. Got a really dark skim there, but you probably could run the tank, as I've only got 5 fish without a skimmer, but I'm in the habit of having a skimmer. Now the problem I do have is the refugium. So I've got a Tunzi refugium light, which works pretty well. It's a little bit too long for this sump, so I've got a bit of light creep into the return chamber, and there's some crud in there. But because the Clavacy works so well, and because I've only got a light bioload, trying to actually get Cheeto to grow in this tank is really difficult. You grow a lot of gunk and algae, but not a lot of Cheeto. However, the nutrient levels actually is pretty good. So the phosphate is usually in the 0.03 range to 5, and nitrates usually between about 2.5 and 5. So that's pretty good, and I'm happy with that level on a mixed reef. I could put more fish in, but I don't really want to at the moment in case I have to transfer fish from the Red Sea Reef for 450. So I'm happy with the 5 fish because it's pretty low maintenance. I've also got the classic Apex set up, and so I've got a pH probe there, and I just forgot that over the back there I've got a Ecotech S2, really quiet, bit of a workhorse. You got a controller that goes with it, but once you've set it up on the right power level and the right flow, you don't actually do anything with it. I don't turn it onto feed mode when I feed the tank because the fish don't really need that. I haven't got any sensitive fish that are slow feeders such as pipefish or mandarins, so I just throw the food in. The heater's got its own temperature control on it. It's also backed up by a DD controller. Now the reason why I think that's quite important is I've seen a couple of people have had problems with their controllers and their tank has overheated. So with this, it's controlled primarily by the DD controller, but if that was to fail and it didn't cut off the power, then it shouldn't overheat because you've got a backup of a built-in controller or thermostat on the heater. I don't think there's anything that I would change on the Sump layout. I just think it's a good laid out Sump and there's plenty of room. Thanks for watching, and also thank you for joining in the live streams and for supporting this channel over the last few months. It's much appreciated. Bye for now.